Hi, my name is Harris. I'm one of your podcast hosts. I'm also a lawyer at Treadstone Law. For most Canadians, buying, selling, or refinancing real estate, a lawyer is the last thing on their mind. That's unfortunate because lawyers play a vital role in the process. But what choices do Canadians have? Lawyers can be very expensive. Well, Treadstone Law offers resources to Canadians so they have access to the information they need. Whether you sign up for a live workshop or a mailing list, we cover topics to help you make informed decisions and avoid costly mistakes. It's advice you can start using today, and best of all, it's free. Visit treadstonelaw.ca/MAS offer or click the link below to get access right now. If you're looking to retain Treadstone Law, it's never been easier. Our entire process is online. From completing the retainer agreement to your signing appointment, everything is done from the comfort of your own home. We're your digital lawyers. The best part of it is that you don't pay anything when you're retaining our firm. Visit treadstonelaw.ca/MAS offer or click on the link below to retain us right now. Enjoy the podcast. Welcome to another episode of Hustle and Grit. Today, back on my podcast, I have Roy Cocciollo. Roy is the president and CEO of a very successful mortgage brokerage, Your Mortgage, Your Way. Welcome to the podcast, Roy.
Hey, thanks very much. I really appreciate you having me here. Always a good time.
Yeah, always, man. I love talking to you. You're a very informed individual in the space. And even though our firm and me specifically, we work in the mortgage industry, but we're working on the last leg, and we still don't know nearly as much as you. And the thing is, there's so much going on nowadays that it's difficult to kind of keep track unless you're working in it. I mean, we've had so much stuff. I think RBC has turned. Last year, there was all doom and gloom with RBC. Today, like recently, they're like, you know what, everything's going to turn around. Everything's going to be amazing by the end of 2023. More interest rates. Bank of Canada first said they were going to freeze it. They still hiked it. Then they said they're going to freeze it. Then people are like, maybe, you know what, they're still going to keep going because the Federal Reserve said they're going to keep going. But we found out yesterday, held it. Scotia Bank, on the other hand, and I want you to get into some of these things, said, you know what, we're going to be keeping our book kind of stagnant. There's just so many different opinions out there that, like, for people like myself even, and I like to think that I'm a part of the industry, it gets very confusing very fast. So jumping right in, right? Based on what's going on, what do you think is a loaded question? The overall sentiment, where do you think the real estate industry is going this summer, at least? Let's just start off with the summer because I can't see to the end of this year.
It's funny because the market is a little bit all over the place for sure. I think that if you look at the fundamental demand for real estate, it's always going to be here. We still have a supply issue, and I'm not sure if they're ever going to fix that. We're going to have another 500,000 people immigrating to this country this year, another 500,000 next year. We have to house them somewhere. Yeah. So supply is always going to be an issue. And it was funny, I was talking to one of my colleagues, and his wife works for a big consulting firm for all the big builders. And if you look at how they build, they look, okay, demand is 90,000. So we're going to build 81,000 homes. So that way there's always demand for the next project. So they'll never really overextend that stuff because construction is a business and there's no way I'm going to build more than I need because I want to maximize my profitability.
Yeah.
And what's going on this summer? Like, I'll give you, there's a lot of multiple offers. If your property is top notch in a good area, you're going to sell it. And I can speak from experience because I sold my house in 3.5 days and got $300,000 over asking.
Wow.
So there is people out there with money, and the sentiment, typically speaking, is people don't care what the rates are. They care of what the perceived rates are going to be. And Bank of Canada, unfortunately, Canada itself is not big enough of an economy to matter in the world economy itself. And the U.S. Fed has to raise rates more than Canada because in Canada, we're a highly leveraged country. People carry a lot of debt, where in the U.S. they carry very little debt. So in order for them to slow down the economy, they have to raise rates beyond what Canada would have to raise rates. And right now, when it comes down to the sentiment of what's going to happen, Bank of Canada most likely will hold rates for the rest of the year. Will they drop rates? Probably not until like late 2023, early 2024. And as inflation, they expect to be down about 3% by midsummer, and will
Yeah.
hopefully be back at 2% by early next year. So they'll go from the contractual like contraction rate, which is 4.5%, and back to
Yeah.
like the neutral zone, which is between 2 and 3%. So you can find that by the mid 2024, rates should be coming down about 1 to 1.5% of the overnight lending rate, and we'll get back to more normalized market.
I mean, yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna butt in, but I was gonna say, and this is kind of a little bit outside of our market, but where do you think the Federal Reserve is going to bring their interest rates? Do you think they're going to still keep making it go up? Do you think it's going to come down? Like, because that's a huge thing, right? Because if they keep pushing their interest rates up, the issue then becomes, and if we don't, the U.S. dollar becomes much stronger than the Canadian dollar, and that it can hurt imports or trade. Like, there's so many other things to it, and I feel like with the Canadian interest rates, a lot of it is just so tied to how strong our currency is in relation to the U.S. dollar, because they're like our biggest trading partner. So, do you think that those interests are going to keep going up, or like, what's your perspective on that?
So the problem you're into here is like in the way the U.S. Fed affects our rates is more along the lines of the bond yields. So
Yeah,
if the U.S. Fed's going to be up to, I'm going to say they'll probably end around 5.5%, at least a percentage point higher than us. So if they're going to be up that way, people will be selling off Canadian bonds to buy U.S. bonds, which pushes the prices down, which increase the yield.
yeah,
So you'll find that in the short term, that the bond yields will rise. So the fixed rates are going to be a little messed up, and we already see that. Where 1 year fixed rate's going to be in the sixes, 2 year fixed rates are going to be high fives, and then the 3 year will be about mid fives, and then you'll find the longer term rates start to settle down. So it's going to be a really weird time over the next, I'm going to say 12 months. And to be honest with you, there's no right answer. People ask me, what
yeah,
should I do? I said, the truth of it is you're going to hate any decision you make right now. If you take a variable rate, you're going to hate it because you're being paying in the sixes. If you take a short term, you're going to hate it in the sixes. If you take long term and lock in today, you're going to hate that rate in 18 months or 12 months. So there is no right answer. And in
yeah.
times of uncertainty, I believe to be flexible and nimble. So take a shorter term, even though it's going to cost you a little bit more right now. But in the long run, you end up saving money because rates should be coming back down by the beginning of 2024.
Yeah.
Like
No, and
when I
yeah.
when I sold my house, I ported my variable rate mortgage. I didn't
Okay.
fix it. I'm a firm believer in variable rate. I get right now it hurts. Trust me, my payment went up like 50%. Actually, I almost doubled to be honest with you. And it sucks shit. Sorry, can I say that?
Yeah. Go for
and it's
it.
and it sucks, but as
Yeah.
quickly as this came over the past year, it's going to leave in the next year. So nothing is forever. This shall too shall pass. The only thing that we have to worry about really is employment numbers and not so much inflation.
Yeah.
If our employment numbers are strong, it may give the Bank of Canada ammunition to increase rates. But if inflation is starting to fall, and even if employment numbers stay pretty strong, which means we'll technically not be in a recession because that's really led by unemployment,
Yeah.
and people are still working, and that'll quickly phase out as well as immigration comes in. It'll take off a lot of those jobs, and then you got to understand something. Like if I'm in IT and I'm making 140 grand a year, and some guy comes in as an immigrant, so they'll do the job for 80,000. Chances are I'm going to get laid off,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I can hire two people the same price. So these are all things that are really unknowns, but it's a possibility that will happen.
Yeah.
But the real estate market itself is actually quite strong in certain sectors. Will prices drop anymore? I think they probably stabilize. A lot of people say that the bottom will hit in like the summer of this year. And if you saw a huge growth in your area, especially outside the 416, those are definitely getting hurt a little bit more than people who are inside the 416.
Okay. So
And
when do you think are going to the prices are stabilizing? You're saying December of this year is when prices are going to stabilize. Is that
I,
your opinion, or is that kind of?
I think that
Yeah.
the prices right now have basically stabilized. I think
Yeah.
a lot of so we had a huge jump last year of like 47%, and the national
Yeah.
average is about 12. So you can expect the prices drop 35%. And some pockets already have. But the beauty is no one's panic selling yet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's why prices, you find that People put their house up for the market. They don't sell for what they get. They take it off the market and they wait. And then when
Yeah.
somebody else sells in the area, they put it back on. And then if they don't still get the money, they still wait. So it's still kind of like a balanced market almost. It's not really a buyer's market. It's not really a seller's market. It's a weird market because some pockets get, for example, in the beaches, one of my clients went to put an offer in on a semi-detached listed at 1.2 million bucks. They got 24 offers and sold for 400,000 over asking.
Oh
So
wow.
things like that still
Yeah.
happen. But then if you get into the 905s, people are listing and they're selling for under lease list price. A place like Brampton is just getting slaughtered right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you don't have like a total turnkey home, people tend to skip out and move on to something else.
Yeah. Also, I think the misconception nowadays is that it's a total bloodbath out there. But in reality, the people who are selling their homes often enough are buying as well, and they're not buying into a market where prices. It's actually a good time because if the prices are coming down, you're gonna buy it cheaper than you sold it, so your dollar can go further. Especially earlier on last year when prices are still coming down. I'm in the same opinion of you, where I do think prices have stabilized right now, and I've never seen, and I'll be frank, I've been in the market for real estate because I think this is the best time to buy, because it was not a good time to buy in 2021 where you had to like put in an offer blind, didn't see the property, no inspection, no financing condition, and pray to God everything like turns out okay. It's not like a chocolate bar that you could just buy if you don't like it, toss it aside and get another one. Like it's not, that's not gonna happen, right? It was something where for me, I'm old school. I feel like this is one of the biggest investments for most people, and even if it's not the biggest investment for your particular portfolio, it is a sizable one. It's not. There's very few listeners of mine who are going to buy a house for $1 million, and it's like 2 or 5% of their entire kind of net worth. But overall, you have to be thinking now. You can actually put in an offer. Think about it. Negotiate. Right. It's not something where, and then it's not something where you kind of take the terms of the seller, and that's it, which is the seller's market. But at the same time, it's not like the sellers are like, hey, take everything and the shirt off my back, just take my house. Right. It's like there's more of a back and forth is what we're seeing, where everybody's kind of confident that, hey, listen, if this guy goes away, I can sell it to somebody else. And the buyer's like, if I don't get this, I'm going to get something else, as opposed to panic buying, which I've seen, like, I swear in like 2021, by the time clients got to like the 10th or the 15th house, they were just trying to put numbers on a piece of paper to see if it gets accepted. It became more of a game than anything about a house. And so now I think people are a little bit more reasonable in terms of what's going on, what they should be expecting, and buying something that they can actually build on. Now, the only issue is that I still have a lot of people who say they're waiting to see the bottom of the market, and they want to definitively know where the bottom of the market is so they can get the cheapest price possible. What would your answer be, or what would your response be to somebody who's like, you know what, I'm waiting for the best price. I want to see where this house goes. I like this house. It's like $100,000 cheaper now, but let me see if it'll go another 100,000 down in the next few months. What's kind of your answer, response to them?
I'm going to say it's like timing the stock market. You
Yeah.
never get to the bottom. And basically, like any investment, it's time in the market. And if you're going to base your decision on two things, which is interest rate and trying to find the bottom, first of all, you'll never get in
Mm.
because you'll always expect it to go lower and lower. So I think that the best time to buy is today, always. If you can afford it, you qualify. I mean, you're qualifying at almost 8% right now. So that's why a lot of first time buyers are out of the market. But if you own a property, you can sell it. Like the funny thing is, those people are saying people want to sell it at top dollar and try to find the bottom when they buy. Like, dude, you can't have it both ways. You can't suck
Yeah.
and blow at the same time. And I'll be honest with you, yeah, there is some deals to be had out there, but the house is going to need work, and a lot of people don't want to spend the money doing it. So if you're willing to take a risk and say, look, I'm going to buy this crappy little bungalow and create something that's my dream home, then that's a different story. But if you're waiting for the bottom of the market, you'll never find it, because I think that how much lower the market going to go? 5%, 4%. I'm telling you right now, as soon as that they haven't raised rates this month, and I don't think they're going to raise it next month either. And then all of a sudden, our spring market's going to come sometime in June,
Hmm.
and then people are going to come back in droves. As long as they have a job, they have a down payment, and they can qualify, they will come back to the market.
Yeah.
And if you're waiting for the bottom, it's not going to happen, because when you have 500,000 people coming in this country
Mm.
and 200,000 want to buy a home, and there's only 100,000 homes being built, I'm telling you right now, for you to find the bottom of that market, it's going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's our, if you think about it, most places, if you live outside the city, you're getting a 30% discount.
Yeah.
And if anybody learned anything from 2017, when the houses prices went up like crazy and then they dropped by 30%, is then a year later it went back up.
Yeah.
So there is no bottom.
Yeah. I
We're gonna
think
have a slight correction, and then all
yeah.
of a sudden everyone comes back in, and and off they go.
Yeah. And I feel like where a lot of people misunderstand what's going on is they compare it again to our neighbors down south, where the real estate market is very different. There is, I would argue, in Canada, there's pent up demand. I feel like when the interest rates started going down, it was not that people couldn't afford stuff. There was a lot of people who could afford stuff, because that was the one place where you experienced deflation. Your milk and eggs were doubling and tripling in price, right? But your one place that you saw deflation and where your dollar was going further, your down payment was going further, was real estate. But people were kind of like, you know what, I can jump in, but I want to see how low this goes, because it could be something like in the States where it just everything bottoms out. Whereas I feel like in the States, if it bottoms out, rent goes down too. And they have several different markets. Over here, your rent is just going up, which shows that people are forced to rent. And if rents are going up and they can afford it, means that they could also afford to buy in some kind of capacity, in addition to all the immigration that you just said is coming in, and making sure that the debt demand doesn't really go away. So I think people also fail to realize it's easy to read an article and be like, oh my God, people don't want to buy. But at the same time, people's families are always growing, families are shrinking. There's always that movement. You can't stop that. That's just natural. And when you have two extra kids, I had two kids during COVID. This is the first time I'm saying this on a podcast, right?
You
two
must
kids.
Have been bored.
So then it was like, okay, well, now you need a bigger house. I'm not going to, like, even if it costs more, I need more space. So you're going to be forced to move out, right? And so I don't think people really realize that that's what's like. They think that's everything is a very mathematical, logical, reasonable decision. To some extent it is, but it is also an extremely emotional decision, which is why prices, I don't like, this is like you said, 2017 kind of went down. I think we're going to be on our way back up as soon as people kind of have just some kind of understanding that even the interest rates have stabilized. And when they start going back up, I personally am of the belief that they're going to go up faster than they came down. And those people who are waiting to time that market, there's no way, like you said, I agree 100%. You're not going to be able to buy it the cheapest, but you're not even going to be able to buy it at a reasonable price if you don't have your ducks in a row right now. So I really do think people need to kind of start preparing. And in that kind of, I guess, direction, what is your opinion of people who are on the sidelines? How should they be preparing? What should they be doing today to ensure that they make the best decision they can in an uncertain environment? And that's a loaded question, just because thing is I'm sure you don't have a crystal ball. You can't read the future. But my dad always told me, you know what? It's when a smart person's wrong, they're still right, and when an idiot is right, they're still wrong. Because you can take a guess. You could take a guess, and you could still be. I mean, that was sometimes his way of saying that he's always right. But, but like, you could take a guess, right? You could take a guess, and if you're right, doesn't mean that you know what's going on. But whereas a person who's in the industry, and they know what's going on, and even if they make a mistake, their overall fundamentals are on point. So it's not like they're wrong. It's just that it's just an unpredictable market. So that's a mouthful. What do you say, going back to my question, what would you say people who are on the sidelines, who are thinking whether they should or shouldn't buy, they're looking at the market, they're reading all this doom and gloom online and on the news all the time, what should they be doing to prepare for the real estate market, and prepare for the purchase more specifically?
Well, I think first of all, you have to take a look at your situation. How much money do you have for a down payment? What's your job situation? How good is your credit? How much debt do you carry? I think these are all things you have to take a look at, and be prepared to buy when you least expect it. I think a lot of times what happens, people are so focused and they go into one place, and what happens is the more houses you look at, the more you want to buy the more expensive house. I
Yeah.
think you have to fit within your budget and understand the fact that right now will be the most you'll pay in interest rate in a long time. So if you can afford a payment at 6, 7%, for example, and qualify 8%, you know that you're golden in the next, 5,
Yeah.
6, 10 years, because I don't really think rates are going to go back to the way they are right now. It's a bit of an anomaly. We went from the lowest rates we've had in 40 years to the highest rates we had in 40 years, all
Yeah.
within 12 months.
Oh wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you can actually budget so you can afford to pay right now at 6.5%, when rates come back and become normalized, it's going to be a breeze work for you.
Yeah.
So get your stuff in order. Make sure you qualify, be credified. And you don't have to get an official, like pull your credit type deal and get like just talk to a professional to help you put a plan in place for what your future is going to look like the next little while. 2, be prepared to pay, like to buy immediately. Like I have a lot of people, I'm going to wait 6 months to see what happens. You always regret the things you don't do, not the things you do. So if you wait too long, and I'm telling you right now, you probably have another 3 or 4 months before the market really starts to rise pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean,
Right?
definitely for those listeners who actually just want to do a little plug. Depending on where you're listening, if you want to do reach out to Roy, his contact information is either going to be below or on the side. Definitely reach out. But when you're saying prepare, you're basically kind of telling people like, yeah, financing down, because there's a lot of people who, when they decide they want to buy a house, the first thing that they do is go reach out to a realtor, which I find is it's all right, but it's not the smartest decision you can make. You don't know what you can afford. Like, how do you know what your situation is?
I have a little analogy of that. Realtors will sell you your dream.
Yeah,
Mortgage brokers make it come true,
yeah,
because we're the ones that get you the money. So at the end of the day here, your realtor is going to show you a lot of great things, right?
yeah,
But in order for you to get that, unless you can write a check for it, we're the ones that help you get into there. So always reach out to a mortgage broker first and find out what you qualify for. And if a realtor doesn't ask you what you can afford and what your budget is in the first conversation they have, do not deal with them, because you're going to get yourself in trouble, because he doesn't know what he's going to show you.
yeah. And I find, sorry, yep, go ahead.
And what other thing is, like, plan to have a bit of like a price difference. And I want to say is that you find out what you actually really fits your needs, and then what your wants are, and have a bit of a buffer. And the reason why I say that is sometimes the extra 50 grand that you need to spend on a place will take you with a much longer plan into your life. You don't make money, or understand that real estate is not something that it costs you money to get in, land transfer tax, legal fees, etc. It costs you to get out, real estate fees, and then land transfer tax for your next one. So you're better off spending, if you could, $50,000 more if you qualify on a property. Even if your payment's going to be a little bit bigger and it makes your budgeting a little bit tighter, you're better off doing that for a long-term hold than it is to buy something for now.
Yeah,
Now, if you can only qualify for a small amount and you want to get in the market, it's better to get in the market than to sit on the sidelines.
yeah,
100%.
yeah,
And the condo market right now is Deadsville. You can probably get you can get probably a really good deal on a condo right now if it's up for sale, because the condo market is really slow.
yeah,
Believe it or not, people are trying to get back into, like, houses, semi-detaches, townhouses, because the price have come down so much that they want to get into there now while they can and have a better investment per se. Where condo market has actually slowed down a little bit, because I think that even the rents don't cover the mortgages anymore.
yeah. No,
And
I've heard that in a lot of places where people are putting in money just so that they can keep the property.
Yeah, and when it comes to renting, and the right why a lot of people went to rent is the fact that they looked at what their interest costs were versus what their rent would be. So if I'm only putting $300 a month away in my principal instead of 2,000, right, and my rent is actually cheaper than the interest I pay on my mortgage, then that's why I moved to the rent. A lot of people went to rent because it actually, cost wise, they didn't have to put a down payment down, and the cost to run it was much less than if actually I owned it. And that's why a lot of people went to the rental side. It had nothing to do with anything else. It's just the fact that, if even if I look mathematically, the amount of principal and interest I was paying on my place, it was cheaper for me to rent a place for $6,000 a month than it was for me to pay $8,000 a month for my mortgage payment.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if the, and I find that, and I'm gonna do a little pushback there in that sense. I mean, not that you're pushing in anything, but you're kind of stating the facts there. The pushback that I have with people with that mindset is that you're looking at your house like you're, like you said earlier, you're day trading. There's like stocks, it's going up and down, and as soon as the price changes a little bit, you're like, all right, I'm gonna move here. It's good if you want to kind of delay the decision, if you want to like think about it some more, but at the same time, you have to stay on top of things, because in the long run, I feel like, yeah, your payments do go up because you have to pay principal. There is a forced savings there that's not always considered, because you are putting money away that's not completely disappearing. And then in the long run, if you don't, if the price goes down now, I feel like when it shoots up, which is definitely, it's not going to shoot up, but when it does go up, all those months, and it's just a few months, where you could have spent a little bit less money renting, it pays off more so to own than being in the rental market.
The long term, absolutely, you're correct on that. But I'm just saying that what happened is when you're making a decision
Yeah,
of that sort, like for me, it was like, hey, I could sell my house for top dollar in March and then
yeah,
rent for a few months until I find something that's going to be
yeah,
more suitable for myself. And I think that you have to own property, whether it's a principal resident or investment property. It's like anything, you have to diversify your investments.
yeah,
And I just want to say that investing in real estate is not the only investment you possibly have. And if you are lacking a down payment, understand there's other ways and other means of investing your money just to get your money rolling for you, especially nowadays. GICs pay a lot of pretty good
mm,
money, a lot of stocks hit rock bottom that it has a way up. You can't just sit on your money and not budget it correctly. And if you don't invest a little bit of money now where you're not making money, you will not invest money when you start making a lot of money either. You just spend it all.
yeah,
So get in the habit of taking 10% of your income, no matter how you look at it, and put it away somewhere. If you make $100, take $10, put it away. If you
yeah,
make $200, take $20, put it away. If you make $1,000, take $100, put it away. Just keep putting away money, because in order for you to be prepared for the future, if you're not saving your money and you're not investing it to let your money grow for you, and there's no value in it.
yeah.
There's no
It's
value in the money
yeah.
itself.
Yeah, and as we saw, it's quite the opposite. It's losing value. It's losing 5-10% a year.
Yeah, absolutely. And like people are savers, it's great. I think it's great to save, but if you are just putting money in your bank account, unless now you have some high savings accounts that pay 2-3%, but still after tax is not worth anything. But you want to get those into something that's going to give you a decent rate of return, and most of that, it's going to be real estate. There's nothing that really, on average, if it's 12% a year, what investment do you have that goes up 12% a year?
Yeah,
And if it's your principal residence, that 12% is tax free.
yeah,
Like that's tax free dollars. That's a lot of money you can make uh,
yeah,
in net worth. Okay. But I'd also understand as the value of your house goes up and you do nothing with that equity, it's called debt equity and you make nothing from it. So
yeah,
if you learn to leverage properly and start using some of that equity to invest, whether it's in the stock market and other real estate properties or whatever the case may be, people work for their money. When you have some money, start making your money work for you. And you'll find that in the long run, you'll be better off financially than just sitting on your house.
yeah. No,
Right. Because
perfect advice. Yeah,
yeah, because like what
yeah,
happens is if you just sit on your house and they say you pay it off in 25 years and now you're retired, all your wealth is in your home and you have nothing outside of it. Guess what you have to use to retire on? The equity in your house. And this is why,
yeah,
reverse mortgages are starting to become more and more popular.
yeah,
This is why people sell their houses and downsize because they need money to live after they retire. They spend their whole life trying to pay off their house.
yeah.
So just a little bit of advice on that side. But
No, 100%. You need investments that cash flow. And the other thing is the 2-3% return. That's an illusion. You think you're getting 3%, but when inflation's 5%, you're actually just, instead of losing 5%, you're losing 2%. Like you're just losing less, but you're still losing. That dollar is not going to go as far as it did before. I mean, I was going out for milk. It's like $10. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? This is insane. This is insane. Like, how is this like, is this possible? But like people like, and then if you put that into like a 2-3%, you're not gonna afford milk, man. Like it's too much.
and I got to say that a lot of reasons why we had a lot of food inflation is the fact that, it took a long time for food to get up here. There's a lot of spoilage that people don't realize. And
Yeah.
like, when romaine lettuce is like $13 for 3 heads is because there was a drought in California, and the California romaine lettuce yields were so small they had no choice. But then as soon as the Mexican yields started to come up, you saw that price drop.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
people have to realize that, yes, sometimes they're going to be, they don't panic. I get it. At the end of the day, just don't buy it. Like
Yeah.
I would,
Yeah.
like a lot of restaurants didn't even
Yeah.
serve Caesar salad. And like, so you have to make decisions every day of what you need to purchase and not purchase. What's important to you and what's not important to you. And if anything, this whole thing is I should have taught people is how to make proper financial decisions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is, can I go without buying that $40 bottle of wine? Can I go without going out to dinner? Like going out to dinner now is like ridiculous. Two of us is like
Yeah.
$300. And I said to my girlfriend, honey, why am I doing this when I can go home and cook a way better meal? It cost me
Yeah.
$25. And it's like,
Yeah.
we like to get out. But now you become more cognizant where your money is going because everything costs more. Like I go to
Yeah.
the grocery store and I look, I get, okay, I don't need that. We
Yeah.
can survive without that. And I actually
Yeah.
stopped grocery shopping. What I do is if we're going to make dinner, I go to the store, buy what I need to make that dinner and come home, because I found that when you go grocery shopping and you spend $300-400 and then you throw half the stuff out because you forget you have it, I
Yeah.
just got tired of it. And I said, I refuse to grocery shop. The only staples like milk, juice, bread, that's what I'll buy,
Yeah.
eggs. But other than that, like if
Yeah.
I'm making steak that night, I'll just go buy 2 steaks, the potato, everything that I need, cook it up, have some leftovers, eat the next day, and then that's it. It's done.
Yeah,
So
I think, and those are good habits though. That is, I think, is a positive habit, because I think a lot of people have that Costco mindset. Let me just like buy as much as I can and fill up my fridge, and maybe I'll need it 2 weeks from now. Whereas like if you get it when you use it, it's not only not going to go bad, but it's just fresher. It tastes better. Everything tastes better if it's like just when you
yeah,
get it when you use it. So there's a lot of good habits that definitely, with all this unpredictability and all that stuff that's kind of produced, I think that a lot of people were just kind of in the mindset that, life just kind of stays the same. And safe to say in the past 2-3 years, all of that's been turned upside down. There is no predictability, even with food. I know that with majority of the world, it's not like you can have like apples and oranges throughout the year. There's a season. When the season's in, you have the fruits and you have the vegetables, and each season you have something different. Whereas I feel like in North America specifically, it's more like I'm just used to having this fruit or this vegetable throughout the year, and if I can't, what's going on? What something is wrong? When in reality, you're kind of facing existence, for a lack of a better word, just because that stuff isn't grown every single day. It's grown a certain time of the year, and that's when you get it. So, but
true.
just to wrap things up, I just have one last question. Bring this right back because we kind of segued, which is good. I like.
Sorry about that.
Everybody's got to eat. Everybody's got to eat. No, it's awesome. So, kind of moving back to real estate, and as my last question, how early on should somebody be reaching out to you in this market? If they're thinking about buying a house, if they are figuring out whether they should or shouldn't, or they've decided that they have, what's a good time frame to reach out to get their kind of affairs straight and understand what they can and cannot afford?
I think that anytime you have it in your mind. So if you think, I think I really want to take the plunge in buying a home, and I'm not quite
Mm,
sure where to start. I think that's exactly when you should reach out. And then even just go through the process of understanding what a pre-approval is and what your options are and all that kind of stuff is important. The sooner the better. So even if you're
yeah.
planning on buying next year because you're on track to have your down payment all set up for next year, all that kind of stuff, it's great to start doing it now, because if you qualify today, you know what you're going for. And then as time goes on, we'll try to stick together, and we'll send you messages back and forth, see how things are going, where you're at with your down payment, what do you need help with, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's important that you start sooner and understand what you have to do next. So it might be the fact that, hey, listen, do you know what your credit score is? Yeah, it's this. How much debt do you
Mm,
carry? Well, if you got rid of this debt now, even though you put less money down, you'll qualify for a little bit more. So you can make that plan way in advance rather than saying, okay, I got my down payment, let's start the thing, and say, oh, well, by
mm,
the way, you got to get rid of this, fix your credit here. The sooner the better. And I find millennials, when I talk to them, carry no debt. which I think that their parents did a really good job in teaching them about money and not carrying debt. Where my
Mm.
generation, when I was doing mortgages 15 or 20 years ago, everybody carried debt. It was like ridiculous. And every transaction was like refinance my house to pay off my debt. So I had the same clients every 5 years come back to me consolidating debt, where now millennials don't have cars. They take public transit. They have no debt. They have no student loans. None of that stuff, which is a great testament to how money conscious they actually are.
Yeah.
Um, and they have great savings ability as well. So at the end of the sooner you start, and you may say, look, I plan on having $100,000 in 12 months. So, okay, this is what you qualify today if you had $100,000. This is what you qualify if you had $50,000 6 months from now. And this is what you qualify with $100,000 if you decide to go down the road. So it gives you an idea of what to plan for. And the earlier you have that plan, the more you can take action to make sure it comes true.
Yeah. No, 100%. Well said. And for all my listeners, if anybody wants to reach out to Roy, his contact information is going to be below or on the side, depending on where you're listening from. Thanks again for a wonderful conversation. Thanks for coming on, Roy.
And we even talk about Scotiabank.
We'll leave that for the next podcast.
We'll leave that for the next one. No problem. I think things will get better. So no worries. I think that I just want to end with this thing here. Everyone, I just want you to know everything is going to be just fine. That's all I have to tell you. I've been in this in 25 years. I've seen all sorts of cycles. This is probably the most harsh. I can say it's not harsh, but it's probably the most volatile market I've ever seen in my career. And this too shall pass. And then all of a sudden we'll go back to normal. So start planning to buy a house, because it's important to have that type of investment in your portfolio.
Awesome. Voice of reason in a crazy storm. Appreciate the advice.
Always a pleasure.